Good evening, one and all. Tonight we're going to be doing a 40 Min Yin, and if you are new to yoga or new to Yin specifically, I'm going to go through a few things. It's a little bit different to a traditional half air or strength practice, which you may have done before. Firstly, we are just going to go through props. So you want to have a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, grab yourself a blanket, roll the blanket up, and then, dun dun dun, voila, a bolster. Grab yourself a couple of blocks. If you don't have blocks, grab yourself books, a nice little pillow, fluffy cushion, and if you've got a belt or a strap, grab hold of one of those as well. I did forget about this, and I just did a quick DIY in the session. So grab yourself your book or your block, and then pop your bolster over the top, and then you're going to scooch your bottom up towards the base of the bolster and support yourself as you go all the way down, just to drape yourself over this bolster. And just going to let the arms kind of fall out to wherever feels good. This is a great heart opener here. So we're in Baddha Konasana. Now, Yin Yoga, if you are new to Yin Yoga, or even if you've done it before, there's just a few things to consider. We want to be resting and letting gravity do the work for us. So we're not going to be pushing against the earth or working ourselves into an uncomfortable posture. Everything wants to feel really, really, really good. So if you start feeling yourself resisting, or if you start feeling any tension building anywhere else, take a moment to breathe and see how you can adjust your posture in a way that you don't have to hold it. I tend to explain thresholds of pain or discomfort. If 0 is you can't feel anything at all, and 10 is absolutely unbearable, throughout Yin you want to be around a 3 or a 4. Anything beyond that, we're not going to be able to hold our postures comfortably, nor are we going to be able to rest our minds with our bodies. And it can be quite challenging because we want to push ourselves, but we don't, like I said before, we don't have to push ourselves. Gravity is there to do the work for us. So in Yin, we hold postures for a prolonged amount of time, and that's why it's important not to be approaching your edge of discomfort, because it only means that you're going to be fighting with yourself instead of resting in a posture. Deep breaths in and full breaths out the whole time. Use your breath as your anchor. If your mind wanders off or you suddenly realize you're not breathing, then breathe. Now, if you're anything like me, slightly hypermobile on one side specifically, grab yourself support. So after a while, once gravity takes hold of you, you will start feeling yourself easing into a posture and it getting a lot easier. As great as this is sometimes when you can get an injury, so it's important to use the props around you. So what I've done, and you don't have to look at the screen at all, I can talk you through this. I've just popped a block under my left thigh to stop my knee opening out too far. And it feels better as well. So come into your breath and just rest here and breathe. Take a deep breath in, sigh out through the mouth, reach the arms above you. Take a nice big yawn and a stretch. Guide the knees in together. And instead of lifting yourself up, we're just going to roll onto one side and then push through that grounded forearm to lift yourself up to a comfortable seat. And then we're going to take the legs out wide. Not too wide, remember. We want to be comfortable. So just enough so you can feel a little summit, but not so wide that you're not going to be able to hold this. Take a moment to breathe just in the posture and to relax the legs. Take any movement that feels good. So you might just want to roll the head from side to side. You could even give the shoulders a roll, do some side stretches. And in your own time, grab yourself hold of a bolster. You might need more than one bolster. You might want to pop a block or a cushion, something on top or below of the bolster just to lift it up. Remember, you can always gradually fold a little bit lower. We want to be able to release further into the pose than have to pull back from it. So just drape your body over that bolster. Make sure you're nice and comfortable. We don't have to have active legs like we do in a traditional yang posture, where we're working with the muscles, pushing against the earth. We just want to release down. So in terms of, if anyone's new to yin yoga, we're wondering, what's the difference between yin and yang? Yang yoga is our strength work, where we're using muscles and we're pushing against the earth a little bit more. Yin yoga targets more connective tissues, so our fascia, our ligaments, our joints, and also our bones. It's slower, it's more meditative, and it gives us maybe just a little bit more opportunity to tune into both your mind, the physical sensations of your body, but also tune inward a little bit more. And because we're holding postures for a longer period of time, certainly longer than we would in other traditional types of yoga like hatha, vinyasa, ashtanga, and so. Yin yoga helps us a little bit more to stretch and lengthen out the tissues that are used a little bit less, but also teaches us how to breathe through areas of discomfort and how to sit comfortably with our thoughts as well. You may be able to physically feel, once you're in a posture for a little while, that you want to release a bit further. So if you're feeling like already in this posture, you want to go a little bit deeper, maybe take away a bit of your support. So what I did is I just took the block away to dive a little bit deeper into the pose. Now by stretching and deepening into postures, we also open up any blockages. And these blockages could be things that are stopping the energy flowing freely and stopping energy from releasing. Actively feel this happening in your body right now, and you may be feeling this posture quite a lot into the legs, but if you can, just see if you can breathe into the back space of the body, maybe into the lower back, maybe across the mid-band of the back where your kidneys lie, and breathe in space to this area. Really go inward and imagine that space that you're creating through the body with your breath. Let's take another deep breath in and out, and slowly guide yourself back up to seated. Really important that you take your time when you're coming out of these postures as well. So we're going to assist the legs in, so just take hold of the thighs and just give yourself a nice big cuddle. If it's available, bring the head towards the knees. And now with your breath, see if you can expand that breath into the back of the rib cage now. Maybe see if you can take the body away from the legs. And just give yourself a little bit deeper of a stretch through the top of the back. So pulling the body backwards, keeping the arms around the thighs. Not thighs, the knees, sorry. And then float the head back up. Let's take a moment to ponder your thoughts and let them go. So we're going to, this time, grab hold of our straps or our belts. This is where I got a bit creative. Now, if you don't have these on you, don't worry. You can just use your hands instead. What I'm doing is I'm just rolling up a blanket to make it more strap-like. We're going to take a single wind-relieving stretch. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap the blanket or a strap or a belt around our, I think I started with my left knee. No, I started with my right. Around our right knee. And then you're either going to wrap the back of the strap around your the back of the head and keep the back of the head on the floor, or what I did here is I just popped the blanket underneath my body. So this means that you don't have to actively hold the right leg in place. You might need to take a few times just to adjust so that you can get the right comfort for the posture. Make sure you're giving yourself enough space to breathe as well. But if you feel that you want to hold on to the leg, that's fine. But please hold on to the leg with as much, as little resistance as possible. This just means we can open the arms out and let that leg just do its thing. And the left leg as well wants to remain nice and soft as well. Both shoulder blades grounded on the earth with even weight. So one of the goals in Yin Yoga, the goal isn't so much to move through these postures freely. Postures can be held for 3 to 5 minutes, or even some postures can be held for 20 minutes at a time as well. What we're doing is we're allowing ourselves to access the deeper tissues that many of the postures focus on areas that encompass a joint, such as the hips or the sacrum, the spine, and so forth. So we're getting past those muscles into those deeper tissues. One of those tissues is known as our fascia as well, which I'll get onto a little bit more later on. But for now, just rest here. Find comfort with your breath. Guiding that right knee back in. Slowly unravel the leg. Now we're going to super duper gently extend that right leg down onto the floor. Please do this as slowly as possible so you can experience that nice oozy freshness of blood moving down that leg. And just find that energy in that opening of space in that right hip flexor, in the psoas. And we're going to swap over onto the other side. Just like before, take your time to get comfortable. So I mentioned one of the connective tissue, it's called fascia. So our fascia is a membrane that runs around the outside of the muscles and the bones. And it's kind of like if you could imagine a chicken breast, for example, has that clear, thin layer that runs around it that keeps it tight. That is basically fascia. So when this connective tissue is underused, it becomes less elastic, which often can lead to aches and stiffness. And the more we don't use or enable ourselves to kind of get more flexibility into this tissue, it can almost calcify. So it gets harder and harder and harder to lengthen limbs and to get into the muscles and the connective tissue because the fascia is so tight. So if you gently stretch connective tissue by holding these yin postures for a long time, the body will actually respond by making them a little bit longer, a little bit stronger. And that's exactly what we want. So often if we are taking other postures or any other stretches, it may not necessarily be the muscles that are tight. That tightness can often come from the fascia themselves. So enabling the fascia to become more flexible, opening it up, will help with our general practice as well. So when you're ready, go ahead and release that left leg. Take a little rock from side to side with the feet. Take any movement that feels good. And take both knees, or bring both knees towards the chest. I like to take a nice supine child's pose. And then take a spinal twist over to one side as you gaze over your opposite shoulder. So for example, what I'm doing now, taking both legs to the left, looking over the right shoulder. And if you're finding that one leg is lifting up and you don't want to have to actively force it down, but you know that it feels good to take it a little bit further, just pop a bolster on top of your the top leg, just to weight it down a little bit, and this will encourage a little bit more length. And we're going to swap over. It's important that you do take it slowly as you swap sides, because one side is always slightly different to the other. One side may be more available to postures than the other, and also keep both shoulder blades, especially in this posture, keep both shoulder blades evenly weighted. Remember to breathe. And bring yourself back into the centre of your mat, hug the knees in, take a rock side to side, and then bring yourself up to a comfortable seat. However you want to get there is fine. Now, next thing we're going to do is a half hero pose. So anyone with, if you've got knee joint niggles, the knees are really, really sensitive joints. So please make sure you have got enough support underneath your hips. So if you've got knee niggles, I would suggest grabbing maybe 2 bolsters at least, and then you can work your way down. So also a few things for the next posture that we want to be mindful of. Just sit and chill for a bit with yourself kneeling with the bolster underneath the sit bones, spine nice and long. Just be mindful of the lower back. If you get any lower back pain, which I tend to when I hold this posture for a little bit of time, we just want to increase a little bit of length and make sure we're tucking the tailbone in, just so we're not accentuating or exaggerating that lower curve of the spine. So we're going to start by just extending the left leg forward and then gently releasing yourself, using the hands to support as you bring your back onto the bolster. Make sure you've got something underneath your head to support as well, to avoid craning the neck backwards as well, so the back of the neck is nice and long. Actively push down your right foot here. Yeah, you can see me already adjusting my lower back. So we're getting a super duper stretch down our right hip, all the way down towards the right knee as well. And we're getting into that right ankle a little bit as well. This is quite an intense posture. So if at any point you're thinking, I'm not sure how I'm going to get out of this posture, if that comes to mind at all, come straight out of this and instead take a child's pose, or you can lay on your tummy and you can take hold of your right foot and bring your right heel towards your bottom using a strap around your right foot instead. So that's another option that you can take. So in terms of our fascia, when our fascia is nice and elastic, this can help lead to more mobile joints, which in turn leads to better flexibility. And this is one of the key benefits to a regular yin yoga practice. So the practice that we've got tonight is quite a short one. You can often take around 2 hours if you spend longer in postures. You can add different postures in there. This is just a few examples. And because fascia needs about at least 120 seconds, so 2 minutes of sustained holds, yin is one of the most effective ways of improving your flexibility, as well as releasing that tension in those really, really tight spots. And this is because of the long holds. So it's more than just 5 breaths in, 5 breaths out. Way more. This is where breathing is so important. Remember, as I said at the beginning, if you start to feel tension, you might not know where you're holding the tension, but you'll know by the tension building elsewhere. So that can be in the jaw. So go ahead and unclench the jaw if you're clenching it at the moment. It could be the eyes, it could be the cheeks, the eyebrows, the forehead, the hands. These are sometimes the first points that show tension. Frowning, for example. And do remember to offer yourself that extra support as we get deeper into postures. That tension may build elsewhere. So For me personally, in this posture, it was starting to build through my lower back. That's why you may notice I get a little bit wriggly, just to make sure that I'm resting in the most comfortable posture. But if you do need to move, think about that movement before you take it. Meditative movement. Mindful movement. Take a deep breath and let it out. Using blocks, if you find they support you, we're going to firstly just push the right hand either onto the earth or a block if you can find it, or you can pop your right hand onto the sole of the right foot and lift yourself up. And gently going to slide that right leg out, give the ankles a roll if you need to. Take some movement just to release the lower back, maybe rock side to side, come into a supported malasana, which is what I was just doing. And then we're going to swap sides. So draw the left knee in. If you did take away support, bring that support back in for you now, or if you felt that you could have benefited from extra support at the beginning, then obviously grab that for you now. Support your way back. Make sure you've got that something to rest your head on. Make sure you do take the time and that you don't find yourself fighting discomfort. It's really important to put our egos to one side. It's important in yoga anyway, but especially in yin, when if we're fighting an internal battle where the brain is saying, this feels bad, this feels bad, this feels bad, I don't want to do this anymore, we're fighting that. We don't want any resistance at all. Yin is about releasing, letting go, and that doesn't just mean physically. So set your ego aside, come out of postures if you need to, but come out of them mindfully and meditatively. And eventually, once you get out of that inner frustration, if you have any, or that inner battle, you'll find that yin is really, really, really good to reduce your stress levels. So after this practice, you should feel super duper calm. As practice also stimulates and activates our parasympathetic nervous system. So this is the system that kicks in for sleep to allow us to rest and drift off. It slows the heart rate. And it's the opposite of our fight or flight response. So it allows the body to go nice and limp and relaxed. And if right now, if your mind is wandering at all, just simply be the observer of your breath. Bring it back to something super duper simple. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. And just take another breath and let it out. Take any movement that feels good, and then gently push into your left hand, maybe onto your left foot. Draw the right knee in and then release the left leg. Give yourself a nice hug of the knees again and breathe into that back space of the body. So next up, what we're going to do, you can either find some wall space and prop your bolster up against a wall. What I'm doing here as well, actually, I'm just doing some circulatory stuff of my legs, so maybe give the legs a little massage, maybe some gentle twists. And then either find yourself close to a wall, or I just could not be bothered to move. I was like, there's loads of wall space, but I'm just chill here. So grab yourself your blocks, pop your bolster up against the blocks, and then we're going to have another bolster or support or a cushion to sit right underneath the hips. So you're going to slide it underneath the hips, and then you're going to put your legs up on top of the bolster. If you're using a wall, do exactly the same with the bolster that's underneath the hips, but pop the legs up onto the wall. Now, I must add, if anyone struggles with a little bit of hypertension, or if you've got any niggles with like heart rhythm and stuff like that, I would take legs up the bolster instead, because it's less intense for the blood to flow up and down the legs. It's just something to be mindful of. So we are working with moving the way the blood circulates through the body, because obviously the legs are elevated. But we don't want to shock the system, so keep it nice and simple. But legs up the wall is a lush one. If you can do it, go for it. If you have got your legs up the wall at the moment and your feet start to get a bit cold or a bit tingly, gently come away and just lower the legs, just so we can get the blood flow back into the feet. And that might be an indication that, today or for the next week or so, especially if this is new, keep the legs elevated just with a bolster instead. And gently take the legs away from the bolster or the wall. Draw the knees in. Or do some weird Paschimottanasana, which I'm doing. Felt good. Can't really explain it. Bring the legs towards you. And then we are going to come onto our backs as we prepare for our final Shavasana. Now, if you want to take a longer Shavasana relaxation, please do. The one that I'm giving you guys tonight is only about 5 minutes, well, 4 minutes long, so it's quite a short one. I just wanted to go to sleep, wanted to get to bed. So yeah, feel free to just stay here. If you drift off into a sleep, that's brilliant. If you don't worry. You obviously just don't need to sleep right now, but take some time to rest and relax. and let it go. So you may want to try making your exhales twice as long as your inhales. As we start coming down, once again allow yourself to go within a little bit. This practice is really good for anyone who's dealing with injuries or a chronic condition like arthritis, osteoporosis. It's also a great starting point for anyone who's interested in meditation, because we've got that internal focus. So this is a good counterpart to help you round any really, really active and fast-paced activities. So I'm going to breathe in for 4, hold the breath, and breathe out for 8 slowly. In for 4, hold the breath, out for 8 slowly. And keep that going. As I said before, if you want to take longer, please do. If you're ready, just gently take any movement and then lift yourself to a comfortable seat. And here I'd like to ask you to just reel off a few things, either saying them out loud or silently. Everything that you're grateful for right now in this given moment. Bringing the hands to prayer Namaste in our heart space. Thank you for joining me with this practice. May you be safe, may you be happy, may you be healthy, rested, and also peaceful. Namaste.